What's up, YouTube? It's Carolina Calvin coming back to you with another video. And I said I would be back. Got MG here. We want to talk about the first round of the NBA playoffs. Of course, the playoffs start tomorrow. Well, you say today by the time this video gets uploaded. But I believe the first games are like 3, right? So I think the Spurs play the Warriors, right? I think that's the first game.
Either 3 or 1.
Okay.
Let me double check here.
But we're gonna go
I
through.
just seen it.
We're gonna go through each game. We're gonna start with the Eastern Conference first. We're gonna go through each game. Who we think was gonna win. Real quickly, why, and in how many games. May do it for each round.
Yep, 3 o'clock.
Okay. We may
Bird
do.
over.
That is the first game. The Warriors Spurs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We will go through. We may come back for the second round. Just depends. But starting with the Eastern Conference, I got the list, and I'm going in order this list. Number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, Toronto Raptors, was a surprise. I think they're, until I see something from Kyle Lowry, they're fool's gold to me. Face the AC, the Washington Wizards, who they've been dealing with injuries. John Wall hasn't been there the whole year, and it's a big reason why they're the AC in the East. Let's just be honest. There's actually a surprising matchup just because John Wall's healthy now. The team is mostly healthy. And Toronto's blunders in the playoffs, you just can't overlook that despite the season they've had. Me and you both said, until Kyle Lowry shows up in the playoffs, I'm not trusting that Toronto Raptors team. And it still stays that way to me. In this series, I think Toronto could beat them in the inside with Valanciunas. Gortat sucks. It's tough, man, because I think they match up well. I think they match up well with them. Especially with John Wall being healthy, it completely changed the game around. And I still see the same problem with the Wizards from last year. You remember in the playoffs, they couldn't win a road game to save their life.
Yep.
And I still see that being a problem, and Toronto has home court. I'm going to go with Toronto in 6. I think Toronto gets them in 6. I think the play inside will, give Toronto the advantage. But, yeah, I'm going to go with Toronto in 6. I think this is definitely one of the matchups that you won't be surprised if the Wizards win a couple of games. And play, even the games they lose, you won't be surprised they play them tough. But I'm going to go Toronto in 6. What about you?
It's an interesting matchup because you got the matchup of the 2 lead guards, obviously, with Lowry and DeRozan versus Wall and Beal. Beal's kind of been shot these last month or 2 coming down the stretch of the season because he had to carry so much of the load while Wall was out. I think the interesting thing for me in this series is Toronto's got the better bench.
Yep.
And I think that's what's going to make the big difference here. Washington's bench hasn't really been that dependable. I mean, Otto Porter and Kelly Oubre, they've been hit and miss for a lot of the season. So Porter was solid at the beginning of the season, but he tailed off.
They're paying him all that money.
Yeah, and home court advantage for the Raptors, and the series last year, the Wizards had a chance to win that series multiple times. They blew, what was it, three games?
Yeah, all of them
where they blew
games.
the lead. Yeah. Really bad. I mean, I think they can push it to 6 just because of the matchup of the lead guards, but unless Washington can get some production from, some of their other guys outside of Wall and Beal, especially off the bench, they won't have a chance of winning the series. So I'm gonna stick with the Raptors in 6 too.
Okay. And this game comes on, actually, this is the second game on Saturday, I believe. Saturday, 5:30 p.m.
Yep.
So it comes after that Spurs game, so that's game 1. Which is, I'm just going to do the Eastern Conference because this video is going to be long if we do both conferences. So we're going to do the Eastern Conference, then we're going to do the Western Conference next. Next matchup, the number 2 seed Boston Celtics versus the number 7 seed Milwaukee Bucks. And when you talk about Boston, all you can think about Kyrie Irving's out. Whenever you bring them up, Kyrie Irving's out. Of course, they lost Gordon Hayward early in the year. Marcus Smart's been dealing with injuries. The young guys, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, He played good basketball. Rozier, he's had some games every now and then. Milwaukee, it's mostly been Giannis. That's the reason why they're the 7th seed. And even with him, his inability to shoot has really kept them from really closing out games that have been close. Because you see the way teams defend him, they just pack the paint. Jabari Parker came back, but clearly is not what he was for them a couple years ago. Chris Middleton just chucks up shots. A lot of guys on that have underperformed. Thon Maker, he hasn't performed well. It's a big reason why they're the 7th seed.
Yep. Plus, they had a coaching change mid-season.
Yeah.
Already Jason Kidd, which I think a lot of people forgot about.
Yeah, that didn't help.
It's not easy to be in a rut and then get out of that rut when you change coaches.
Exactly.
Mid-season. So I thought that was a bad move for the timing.
That's tough to. I'm gonna go because I think Boston. Some of those guys have played well, but you don't have they don't have a closer. Jason Tatum has done a good job, but he's still a rookie. And he's still not Kyrie.
Yeah, they usually go with him and Morris for the closing.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Boston in 6. I think Boston gets some. The reason being, let's say the games get close, they're just gonna pack the paint against Giannis, man. And I feel as though he's gonna be the main guy, as the season showed that he's gonna be the main guy making plays throughout the games. And obviously he's a big difference maker. I just don't think the guys around him have been playing well. So I'm gonna go Boston. This is another one. Pick Boston in 6. This game comes on Sunday, April 15th at 1 p.m. So I think this is the first game of that this Sunday coming up. But I'm gonna go Boston in 6. What about you?
I'm going Boston too. I think through all the issues that Boston has with injuries, they're still even with all of this, they're still one of the best defensive teams in the league.
Yeah.
Still, I mean, Kyrie isn't known as a defender. That's not necessarily what they lost when they lost Kyrie. When they lost Kyrie, they lost leadership and scoring and playmaking. But defensively, they still hold strong versus the best of the teams in the league because they're young, they're athletic, they're coached well, they get after it. They got one of the best coaches in the entire league when it comes to X's and O's and development. They also have home court advantage. It's not easy to win in Boston.
Yep.
It has not been easy to win in Boston the last 3 years. So, I think when you're talking about a team in Milwaukee who is somewhat offensively handicapped, when you talk about Giannis not being able to shoot, when you got a couple of guys who are hit and miss shooters like Brogdon and Middleton, Jabari Parker, he can give you a spark at times from what we've seen, a couple explosive dunks here and there, maybe a couple jump shots or get out in a, fast break, but he really hasn't gotten back to form.
Nope.
So, and then, Eric Bledsoe, you almost don't even know.
You forget he's on the team.
Yeah. And Brandon Jennings. And that's another thing, too. This team is very guard heavy. Yep. And when you're talking about a guard heavy team versus the Celtics, I like what the Celtics bring to the table from a guard perspective when you got two guard heavy teams. Giannis is a force, but he can't shoot the jumper.
Yep.
He can't shoot the jumper. And that, I always reference this, tell people go back and watch the Pistons game and watch the Pistons play a box and one on that free throw line, and Giannis couldn't do anything.
Yep, he was just passing the ball.
Yeah, and I think with how smart Brad Stevens is, I'm going Celtics in 5 here actually.
5. Okay.
Yeah, because this isn't an inexperienced team either. They've been deep in the playoffs at this point, so I'm going to go with the Celtics in 5. I think Giannis is the victim of his surroundings at this point.
Yep. The next game, the number 3 seed, the Philadelphia 76ers, versus the number 6 seed, the Miami Heat. This game comes on April 14th. I believe it's the last game of that Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I like this Sixers team. Getting Fultz back, who's a guy, he's not a great shooter, but he's a guy who can get to the bucket. He plays defense. He can make other players better. Combine that with Ben Simmons. The biggest problem with this Sixers team is ability to spread the floor. They don't do that very well. They got guys who can make plays. Markel Fultz, of course, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, who will be back, because it was just like a facial injury, so it was nothing to keep him really from playing. So he will be back.
Said he might miss game 1 and play in game 2.
I still think they could beat him. I still think they'll beat the Heat.
Yeah.
Heat have.
This game 2, I think, is on Monday.
Yep, Monday at 8.
Yeah, I think they said he probably will be back for game 2 for sure. I think game 1 is kind of a game time decision.
Game 1 probably the only game they could potentially lose, in my opinion. That Heat team, nothing really impresses me about them. They just make the playoffs because it's the East. I'm just being honest. You get Wade back; he's old. Whiteside, not the biggest impact player that people make him out to be. I think we've talked about this in the past. He's a guy. He'll block shots. He'll get the points. He'll get the rebounds, but it doesn't make as big as an impact as you've seen players who put up those kind of numbers in the past. It's weird, but I'm gonna go with the Sixers. I think they're gonna be powerhouse soon in that Eastern Conference in the NBA. Once they're able to spread the floor, they're gonna definitely be a powerhouse. But I got the Sixers in 5, man. I think what guys like what Ben Simmons can do. Only game they could possibly lose is game 1 because Joel Embiid won't play. But once he gets in there, he brings a versatile skill set at that big man position. I got the Sixers in 5.
Yeah, right now Philly has probably one of the 2 or 3 toughest places to play in the entire league, along with Boston and Utah. Those are probably the 3 toughest buildings to play in if you're a road team right now. So them getting home court advantage was huge for them. I think the problem with Miami is offensively, you could argue they might be the worst offensive team in the entire playoffs. Yeah. They are really bad offensively. A lot of guys they have are kind of more so role players. Yeah. With the exception of Dragic, obviously, D Wade at spurts. He'll give you a good 10-minute spurt here and there, but Hassan Whiteside, we've seen what Joel Embiid is capable of doing to him, getting him in real quick, early, easy foul trouble. And especially once Embiid is back, I don't see any way Miami can stop him. Along with Ben Simmons, Markel Fultz is a game changer. He helps keep that floor open and gives them another scorer on the wing too. Because Covington isn't necessarily consistent as a scorer, J.J. Redick either, but Fultz will attack the basket, and so it helps keep that defense a little bit honest. I mean, obviously teams are going to play off of him a little bit because of the jump shot, but it makes it a lot more difficult to double down on a guy in Joel Embiid when he can kick it out to Simmons or Fultz for the drive. So I definitely like Philly in this series. How many games?
You predicted in the sweep?
I like this Philly team a lot, and they're in rhythm right now. They have the biggest winning streak going into the playoffs in NBA history too.
And that's the team. That's the dangerous team. The team that goes in there with the winning streak.
Yeah. Well, the problem is the other 2 teams who have won at least 15 games heading into the playoffs didn't make the finals. Yeah. So I think they were 70s teams, but this team right now, they're playing together. They're blowing people out. They're not just beating people, but they're smashing people.
Even without Embiid.
Even without him, yeah. I have a hard time seeing Miami winning here, but I'm gonna give them 1 for the sake of Philly being a young team.
Yeah, they're gonna have that really crappy game.
Yeah, where stuff's not falling, which happens. So I mean, I'll go 5 games, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a sweep.
Yeah, same with that. the next game, the last matchup of the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. Like I said, we're going to come back with the Western Conference first round. The number 4 seed, probably disappointment in my opinion. Number 4 seed Cleveland Cavaliers face the number 5 seed Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers are the classic case of overachiever. Victor Oladipo, those guys, he's unanimously most improved player. I don't think anyone's gonna really argue against him. But a lot of those guys they got, I really think they overachieved. No one expected them to play this well. Still the Eastern Conference, but they did get a 5 seed from a lot of people thinking they were going to be a lottery team. It would, team that wasn't going to make the playoffs, be one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference because of the loss of Paul George. But they showed that those role players stepped up. They had a guy who played like an all-star, made the playoffs. But they're facing the Cavaliers team who they're crap on defense, but that trade they made to get those young players has helped them out a lot, especially offensively. Maybe not defensively. A lot of that, LeBron hurts them really bad on defense, and that could come to bite. That's going to come to bite them in the playoffs, but not against the Pacers. But they got guys who come off the bench who can score. Rodney Hood, Jeff Green's playing some great basketball. Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance is out there making plays. Got Kevin Love back, he can light it up from 3. I don't see the Cavaliers. I got this one in 5 as well. I don't see the Cavaliers. I'll see that game where their shots aren't dropping, and their defense, of course, is not going to make up for it. That's the game the Pacers could possibly win. Other than that, I just don't see the Pacers with the lack of talent really beating the Cavaliers in a 7-game series. So I got the Cavs in 5.
5. I agree with everything that you said. Pacers definitely overachieved. I mean, you had Washington who fell off the bandwagon because of some injuries. You had the Pistons who were supposed to be way better than what they turned out to be with Blake Griffin. You had Milwaukee who really hit the downturn, and they were supposed to be one of the better teams in the conference. The Knicks looked like they were probably going to make the playoffs. Porzingis went down.
And that went away.
Yeah. Even early in the season, I mean, you were probably looking at teams like Charlotte and, Indiana kind of competing for that last spot. So I think that they definitely finished higher because of circumstance. I mean, credit to Victor Oladipo for what he did this year. But, I think the Cavs right now, their firepower on offense is really good. And you're talking about LeBron, right? I mean, this the first round. He's not losing in the first round. At least not against this team. If he loses in the first round, it's going to end up being against a juggernaut, pretty much. So, I'm gonna go with the Cavs, and you know what?
You're gonna call it a sweep, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm calling it a sweep here.
Yeah, I definitely could see that being the case.
I'm calling it a sweep because the issue with Victor Oladipo. Which, I mean, yeah, he had a great year, but his efficiency at times can be really bad. He can be a lot of volume.
Would you argue this is, despite the seeding, is probably the worst team in the East?
I would say Miami.
You say Miami. Think about it. If Miami was matched up against Cleveland, we'd say in 6 because Miami plays the Cavaliers well.
Yeah. Yeah, Miami should have been the 8th seed, but I think about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, Milwaukee and Washington just decided to drop. So I would say Miami's the worst, but second closest would probably be the Pacers.
Okay.
So I'm calling the sweep here. I don't see them winning in Cleveland, and I don't think they got enough firepower to keep up with Cleveland offensively. Yeah. I mean, Cleveland's going to give up some points, definitely, because their defense is horrible. But you look around where those points going to come from on Indiana. Exactly. There's just not too many sources. I mean, obviously Victor, who's going to be volume, and Lance Stevenson to get you some here and there. Same with Miles Turner, but there's really not much other production coming from that team. mean, I think that's where they're gonna get hurt at.
And this game, game one comes on Sunday, April 15th, 3:30 p.m. It's probably gonna be the most boring series. I'll be honest, at least for the Eastern Conference, because I think some of those other matchups are a lot better. You know, people arguing Boston, Milwaukee because of the injuries. But that does it for this video. We're gonna come back with the Western Conference video. Of course, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Thanks for watching.